Hi, everybody. I'm Ginny Schuster, and today my guest is Dyer. I met her at a polka dot event, the Ladies Power Group, and she sat at my table, and I knew instantly I wanted to connect with her. She has that kind of draw and power. Well, it turns out she's a consultant. Well, it makes sense when I look through her profile. I believe you've been an entrepreneur all your life, haven't you, Chris?
Well, I wouldn't go back that far. I mean, I have had lots of different jaunts in my occupational journey. I've been an entrepreneur since 2005.
Okay.
So we're, how many years is that? 17 years, going on 17 years.
Well, that's a lot. That means that you know your stuff by that time.
Well, I will say, I mean, knowing my stuff, well, that can change from year to year, and right, what
Yeah.
worked back then doesn't necessarily work today. So I've had to be able to be agile and adapt as needed, and willing and open to learn what I need to know, because my business today isn't the same as it was in 2005.
Now is
So,
anybody's.
no.
Yeah. That's basically what I think a ton of us are finding, that it's just not the way that life was anymore, and we have to figure out how to adapt. So let's jump into your business, Chris, and tell them about your consulting, because I love the idea of your gifting, helping people with their branding of gifting and being creative, thinking outside of the box.
Well, yes, it all depends on what the entrepreneur is looking for, and it's about asking the right questions. If somebody's looking for marketing specifically to help them with their branding, yes, absolutely. I have two other businesses that are very highly creative. Basically, what we do is we bring your ideas to life. If there's something, an idea that you have in your head, or maybe we talk about what is the intention behind your marketing, who's the message, what's the mission, and making sure that products and swag are aligned with who you are and your business and what you project and you want to put out to the world. Very intentionally leaving that positive energetic footprint. So yes, I have a resource of not only the two businesses that I own, but also many other resources. And it doesn't all have to come from me, but I am very much a connector, as you know, and connecting people to the right resource. Sometimes it's not about me. I'm just that creative conduit. And that's the term I like to use. Whether it's something we can use our imagination and bring that to life, or help funnel you in the right direction.
And it's really hard for people, don't you think, to you get so involved with your company. And I have to share this with you. It was someone else. The name of our company that we had years ago was called Speedy Bee Printing. And it never even dawned on me to start bringing in bees, you know? So people get so wrapped up in their own business, they can't even envision that the name of their company really is, in a way, their marketing tool and branding. Do you
Right.
find that?
Well, I think a lot of times people jump in and don't really know themselves. They don't know how to connect with themselves. They don't see how everything really truly is interrelated. Maybe they'll just come up, and I know this from my own personal experience. When I transitioned to Embellished Butterfly in 2019, I'd come up with the name of that business 7 years ago, and I grew into it, right? I mean, my business had been strictly online, did very well, very successful with that. Great. Okay, so what can I do now? I wanted to go the creative route, because creativity is an expression of your heart. It's art
Right.
comes from the heart, right?
Yep.
And there's a vulnerability to that. Well, it's a very noisy market, and where I had been very successful online, when I went to the creative side, that was a whole different animal, and that's when I had to start showing up in a much bigger way, and creating relationships and meeting people and networking, and putting myself out there, showing up, and doing an amazing job of showing up for other people in other parts of my occupation, always in service, and looking to inspire and lead. And so with a creative mindset, that's a whole new skill set. And what I wanted to create was not about me. Once I decided to nail down, it's like, you know, and I spent years mulling over, do I invent something? Do I create something nobody's ever seen or no? Well, if we waited that long, nothing would ever happen, right? And if you look, I mean, most ideas truly aren't original. I mean, there's very little originality. So what we can do is take something that already exists, that's ordinary, make it extraordinary. And so that's how I've been able to specialize, is taking ordinary objects, make them extraordinary, put the branding, put the color, put the life into it. And so that it does meet people's objectives, their mission, their message, their branding. And, you know, embellished butterfly, that has so many metaphors and connotations behind it. You know, just the growing and expanding of the wings, and you just see just the story of a butterfly in itself, the metaphor with that, how it comes out of its cocoon, and it's the resistance and growing against it, and that's how it strengthens its wings and it's able to fly out into the world. But also, I don't know many people that would have a negative thing to say about a butterfly, right? It just has that positive energy. It's light, it's airy, it touches very lightly, very elegantly through life, leaving beauty wherever it lands for the short time that it's here. So if you actually look at what a butterfly is, and all these things were what I embodied, but I didn't really know it until I started doing the discovery, the self-reflection, putting the insights, really connecting the pieces of my life together, and where I am today. It's like, well, yes, no wonder. It's like, duh. You know, it's like, okay. But I think a lot of people jump into it and they don't really analyze. You know, they just put things out there and they think they're, you know, they assimilate so much energy into what their logo is. And I didn't do that. I mean, it's just a logo. It's just to put a brand recognition with a body, an entity, that business, that model. What does that business do? And then there's been so much evolution in the 3 years since we launched that business in 2019, and just the real beauty of it. And, you know, those that know me know that, you know, I inspire, I try to hold a higher image of the people in my space for them while they're growing into the next best version of themselves. I mean, we can do that with branding and gifts. And, you know, I support adults with disabilities in occupational setting and training and mentorship. So that right there is just a beautiful pillar on one leg of my business. And then, you know, the other side is positively panache. Well, panache is kind of a bougie word. A lot of people don't know what panache is, right? And I don't take myself too seriously, because I can be very bougie, but I can also be very basic at the same time, right? It doesn't take a lot to make me happy, right?
Yeah.
I love being out in nature. I love the basics. I can roll up my sleeves and get dirty and play in the yard and do whatever needs to be on that team just to help facilitate whatever the project or the process is. And I'm always willing to do that, because there's something to learn in every segment of that chain of an organization or a team, whatever. That's a skill. That's an asset that you gain.
Wow.
But Positively Panache was the second business I launched at the end of 2020 as a way for me to highlight and showcase other creative entrepreneurs through their marketing, help them market their businesses, because I had been successful online. Well, I can do online, retail, wholesale, in person, everything in between, even vendor events. So I have a very unique skill set that helps other creative entrepreneurs and help them grow in their business. And, you know, the third part, the consulting, the part that we led with, just really puts the nice bow in the package. And that's a nice analogy, if you will, because I do gifting, but I'm also all about gifts of the heart, self-expression, and helping people, again, hold themselves up to that higher image of themselves while they're vulnerable, while they're not sure of themselves, while they're working through life. And it truly is a journey and a process. So I feel complete, right? I mean, if I look at all the things that I'm doing, I feel very complete. We talk about exercising right brain, left brain. Yes, all the things. I can do that and not apologize for it. But also feminine energy and masculine energy. There's a time and a place for all of that. And when you can appreciate that and use those to your advantage, and those are part of your assets, that's what I help entrepreneurs do.
Oh my goodness. All encompassing. So I'd love to hear some of your background, how you got onto this route that you are now. But I'd also like to know, um, maybe before we jump into that, how do you get people to open up if they have a problem with trying to decide what is from the heart for
Mhm.
themselves that they would like to give to somebody else? How do you work through that process?
Well, it takes a little bit of time for people to open up, and it's about multiple connections. You're not necessarily going to have that on a first interaction. When I connect with people and when we are in a connecting situation, a lot of people lead with their business. And to me, a business is one facet of who we are. To me, it's a facade of that's what people lead with, right? They
Yeah,
have their all their energy, all their ego is tied up in their business because in a networking setting, that's what we're there to do is to learn and grow, hopefully grow our business. But what we're really doing is growing relationships and cultivating relationships. And so what I do, my unique charm, if you will, is I like to peek behind the curtain. It's like I want to know the person behind the business, and I will start asking questions that are relevant and appropriate and not too personal, right? But that helps people put their guard down, lets them their guard down a little bit, and always come across as being equal. We are all equals here, walking our journey on this earth. Some of us we've earned a lot more wisdom by the knowledge, the experiences, applying that, putting it into action, the lessons learned, nothing ever being wasted, and really truly connecting and reflecting in all those insights that we've all gained throughout our life. And how can I serve someone? How can I, when I look at the word service, there's multiple layers and context. When you break service down, ultimately what it means is to ease the burden of someone else, right?
okay. Hmm.
Really, when you break it down. So in a business context, we think, oh, well, my product's going to help make somebody's life easier. Yes, and what if it was a kind word, a kind deed, something so subtle? It's that positive energetic footprint. Doesn't necessarily have to have anything to do about my business. So I want to connect with that person with their heart first before we even go to the next step. And it's asking questions, leaving that curiosity behind, right? I don't have to have
Yeah,
all the answers. I have a lot of questions.
right.
Um, does that kind of answer your question a little bit?
Yes, it does. So basically, you dig down until the person opens up, but you're gentle.
Hmm.
And people love to talk about themselves. So I'm sure that if you ask the right questions, then they start to open up that way. And it may not be on the first visit with them, it may take a few. And that's what
Hmm.
they say in any business. But you are right, Chris, that any business you're in, it's all about relationships, which means that you're getting to know the people.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, that's how I got my husband. Let's just be serious. Because, and this was like, you know, gosh, almost 30 years ago. And I was previously married before. However, I created this amazing friendship with this individual because I saw behind the bravado, right?
Yeah.
I saw the vulnerability. And so it's looking behind the curtain, really getting to know that person for who they are, not just their business. That really, that's the spice. It truly
Oh,
is.
oh, that is. Yeah. And it takes a lot of time to understand for some people. So I'm going to refer to myself. I know that it takes so long for you to realize to get on the same plane as other people. And I don't know whether it's because it's a certain time in life that you end up learning more before you really reach out to other people and you realize that you don't have to do life all by yourself. The more
Mhm.
connections you have, the more relationships you build, and the more walls that you let down of your own walls.
Right. Well, and as society becomes more dependent on technology, my opinion, my observation is that we are becoming more disconnected, which is why we need to be doing what we're doing. We need
Yeah.
to connect. Humans are intended to be connected individuals, not just to other people, but also to ourselves. And also connect, when we say connect the dots, I mean, obviously we know that in terms of polka dots with people,
Right. Mhm.
but there's connection to the self, and there's also connection to the things in your life. I mean, everything having had happened for a reason, for a purpose. And, you know, I like to use the tagline because I'm a little bit snarky. I'm a little bit fun. Those that know me, and I think I shared this the first time we had a conversation, is like, I help people get off their assets, right? It's like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, tell me more.
Yeah.
What do you really mean? Because, you know, going back in, we've had so much knowledge, so much content. I mean, we are content obese, right? There's so much out there, and learning to apply that knowledge, implement. But that's my word for the year, is implement. You know, I have invested in so much over so many years. I mean, we're talking 35 years, and Jenny, you're probably very similar to me.
Yeah.
35 years is like, wow, that's a lot. That's a lot. And we don't give ourselves credit for that. Well, that's where the wisdom comes from. It's that applied knowledge that moves the needle forward. That's the action. And sort of leaning into that in what are the next steps? It's like, okay, what can I take what I've already done, what I've already learned, what I've already invested, because it had a purpose. I did it, even though maybe it didn't work for me the right way and the way I thought it would. There was a lesson in that, you know, and how do I apply it now? How do I help somebody else? How do I ease someone else's burden by the journey and the self-healing that I've been able to do? Right. It's
Right.
doing the work. You really, really have to be willing to show up for yourself, get vulnerable, live in the, I call it the friction. That's that state of that conflict or confusion of not knowing that the breakthrough comes out through on the other side. But it truly is a journey and a process. And that's what I love about this whole 3-year bubble, if you will, of transition, starting with Embellish Butterfly, you know, and then of
So,
course, you know, with assets, you know, I've talked about different parts of my occupation, you know, healthcare, fitness and wellness coaching. I mean, all those things I can incorporate that are helping love our future selves.
all the stuff that you've learned over the time that
Yes.
you're bringing together, that you see
Yes.
it all come together. Well, you're right, because I think, as you mentioned, about the time that I met you, there's a lot of confusion within myself of wondering, how does all my past fit together so that I can move forward? I'm sure that I'm not the only person going through the transition that has been forced upon us to use Zoom phone calls as opposed to connecting with people. It's really made a lot of people step back and take a look. Where am I going in life? And where's my business going? Am I into it too much or not enough? And the whole complexity of looking within yourself of where you're going. So with that, I think that an awful lot of people who have lost their jobs have, there's been a peak to get into their own business. And that's the part that I love, is so much of this small business, and encourage people that that's the best way to go to build up your confidence, to really learn who you are and to take the next steps forward through changes and be okay with it. Because that's a fear that people have, is they're not sure they're going the right way. Why is it taking so long? And maybe you can, with, because of your consulting and the direction you've gone and what you've gone through, maybe you can give some advice to people in that situation.
I think it does help to do an evaluation of previous skill sets. And then let's look at your dreams. What is it you aspire to be? What is it you aspire to do in the big picture? So a lot of times while we're working on that big picture, sometimes we need to do small things in between to bridge that gap, right?
Yeah.
But it's showing up, holding that higher vision, and it's okay to have some guides and mentors. And for me, I sort of relay a coach, guide, mentor, whatever. I mean, it all says the same thing. It's helping somebody get from one step into the next, into that next vision of themselves. I mean, if you think about it, when you go to school, you go to college, you work with multiple instructors and professors, right? And you're all working towards that degree and that goal. You work with multiple people. So it's being open and willing to say, hey, I really feel the energy of working with this person. I really feel like this person can help me get unstuck where I am and help me grow to the next stage in the next level. So that is my aspiration, is to help people, guide them through that next step. I don't need to have all the answers for them, because whatever they're in right now, we can help guide to the next stage, next level, what that is. And then when they're ready to evolve into the next level, then they'll be ready for someone else. So I just have to live in that space right now, and knowing that I can help, I can serve. And a lot of times when people are struggling with their business, sometimes it's bigger than the business, right? It's more about being connected, knowing the values, like, what do you really want? What are you doing? Why are you doing this? And if it's not within your values, it's like, okay, how can we shift that? Let's shift the perspective. What can we do? And I'm a can-do girl. A lot of people, particularly in the health and wellness space, they like to come at you with all their excuses. Well, I can't do this, and I've tried that. It's like, okay, thank you, hold please. Let's focus on what you can do, right?
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you were to, do you like it in groups or individual consulting? What's your best way? Is there an age group? Is there a demographics?
I like psychographic better than demographic.
Ah,
I like to work with people who know they are meant for more and want more, and want to show up as their best self all the time. And it's not just about the physical, it's the mental, the physical, the spiritual, all the things. I work amazingly independently with one-on-ones and also in a group setting. And the beauty of a group setting is I can initiate a question and a concept. And the beauty of a group setting is I don't have to do all the talking, right? Other people get to
oh,
share their experiences. And because of shared experiences, that connection and that sacred space in that group, like a mastermind, other people are going to grow from someone else's experience.
because
It doesn't
they'll
all
hear,
have to be my experience, right?
got it. Okay. Because they hear other people's experiences
Mhm.
that they may connect a little bit better with.
Right. And that goes back to just me being the conduit, me setting the space, me setting the stage of being vulnerable and safe at the same time, being seen, heard, validated. There are no wrong questions. And there's multiple answers. There's more than one right way, and just being open to that, and being curious and leaning in.
I love it.
Mhm.
So what size group do you deal with, Chris? Or do you have any boundaries on that?
I would say 12 to 15 people in a group setting. That way it's not too big. It maintains an intimate space. It maintains the ability for individuals to connect with each other within the group, even outside of the group. And I can have multiple groups. I could work with just men and their confidence, men and how they show up. I can work with creative entrepreneurs. How do they show up? Different groups of people, different demographics have different needs. And I
Oh,
think keeping groups separate based on the demographic and the basic need has a lot of value, right? So
right.
each group is sacred, safe, seen, and heard.
Yeah. And do you do that on Zoom? Because that way you can connect with a lot more people around the country or around the
Absolutely.
globe.
Global connector, absolutely. And
Yeah.
using technology is an advantage. It's very economical. It's very safe. I mean, obviously, with what we went through, with pandemic, I absolutely saw the value of utilizing technology. It wasn't hard for me to adapt and pivot and be agile. When we talk about being agile, so how quickly can we get off of, what we've known and move on to the next thing, and be willing to adapt. So, with my online business in 2005, I was strictly online.
Yep.
Doing Zooms was no big deal for me. And look
Right.
at the amazing connections we've been able to foster, and just being willing to show up.
Yeah. And now people are doing it all the time, connecting, and we had no idea, probably, what was it, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, that something like this was possible. But that's one thing I love about entrepreneurs and about people loving to want to expand and learn. You know, tons of people, most people want to learn something new, and they, once they conquer it, they feel better about themselves, but especially entrepreneurs. Of course, you can tell my heart goes out to entrepreneurs.
I have, yes, we have a soft spot for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It can be a very isolating journey, and it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
And that's part of how I hold space, is like, you know, I can relate success to me. Success to me means having some amazing connections and relationships that I have been vulnerable with, that I can be myself. And so when we can define what success is, we can also define what the opposite is. What is poverty? For me, poverty was growing up feeling isolated and lonely, and feeling that way. So, I mean, up until 3 years ago, right, that I started
Yeah.
this part of my entrepreneur journey. I mean, I've really exponentially flourished in the last 3 years. But loneliness and isolation is a form of poverty. And I feel like a lot of people are disconnected from themselves, from other adults, or just people in general. How can we allow people to feel love and inclusive? And that's what I exude. And people who come around me, just ease and grace and peace.
I love it. Wow. That's very special. And I felt the same way that you're explaining here. And I'm sure that's why I was attracted to you. We had a table of 8, and I go and sit down next to Chris, go, I need to know you.
Oh, thank you.
So you definitely
I received
attract
that.
that.
Thank
Yes.
you. I received that. Because as women, we're so used to giving 100% of ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And, part of what I teach and coach on is taking that 10% for yourself every day, every single day. 10%, just like a financial advisor. It's just like the profit first mentality. 10 to 15% of your waking hours should be given to yourself, because we'll give away the other 90%, right?
Wow. Yeah.
Just in your finances, you're preparing for your future independence, your future freedom, by compounding that interest. Well, time doesn't compound. However, when you show up for yourself and give yourself and your body everything it needs, those benefits compound over time. And part of my perspective working with the older adult demographic is, it's a choice, right? We can love our future selves today by giving ourselves exactly what we need, so that we can have that freedom, that independence. Great, if that's great financially, we're taken care of. But if we don't have the physical and the mental capacities to enjoy it, what's the point? So it needs to be all encompassing. We need to look at the whole person, not just their business, not just their finances.
Well, that takes some time to actually look at that, as you mentioned. And and I've mentioned before to other people that they should reward themselves for something. I guess I've done it more so for my kids, but then when I think of, okay, a reward, what does that look like? Sometimes it ends up being something for money, or it doesn't have to be. It can be reward yourself by going for a walk and getting out in nature, or
Which you should be doing anyway.
which you should be. Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah. Mhm.
So let's get on to taking that to looking at the part of a person and their business. Can you give us some ideas of unusual things you've come up with that you recommend for a person to give as their branding, as a gift? Because as I was looking through your profile, I was thinking about, well, that's got to be tough to determine what kind of unique present that person would want to give that shows it's from the heart, because a lot of times you'll just go buy a special candy for someone and give it to them. But if you want to do something more than that, that shows a sign of you and your business, what would something like that be?
I would say I would start with asking a lot of questions first. I've have a consultant that I've been working with. She wanted to do some very exceptional gifts for some of her clients. It's like, well, let's look at your logo. Let's look at what it represents, what it means, and tell me more about the people that you're wanting to give it to, right? And if there's specific people, do they drink coffee? Do they drink tea? Would they appreciate, this or that, and so it's treating people the way they want to be treated, right? It's kind of that platinum rule. The golden rule always said, treat people the way you'd want to, or what was it called? You could tell me, you probably know it better than me.
Yeah.
treat
Well,
others the way you would want to be treated. Well, no,
Right,
the platinum rule. Rule is treat other people the way they want to be treated. So it's really not about me. So it's about me asking the questions, okay. And like for the Broadmoor, for instance, we do gifts for the Broadmoor. They actually have them on their shelves in their signature shops. Well, for me, it's like, I'm imagining their guests coming through looking for souvenirs, something that reminds them of their experience at the Broadmoor.
Okay.
Right. And so being that conduit, maybe it has their branding on it, maybe it has their golden bee on it. Maybe it's something that's positive, inspiring. I'm always, when I'm in creative mode, I'm always thinking about the person that's actually going to be getting that gift, that product. So it's really not about me. Again, it's about asking the right questions.
Yeah.
And everybody's different.
Yeah. You've said that. I keep going back over it because I think that that's really hard to get into somebody's head to make it valuable so that they can give a piece of them. And yet I've seen some of the things I think you've been involved with. So do you want to share some of those things that are unusual gifts that you have worked out with your customers?
Oh, wow. Well, the most recent one was a huge commission piece that was intended to be a gift that one of my business mentors wanted to present to someone else on the team. And so we wanted to put their branding and logo on it, the person that was receiving it. And so I put a lot of time and a lot of thought into it. And of course, it has a little bit of element of sparkle, the bougie side of it, because that's what my business mentor wanted, because he knew it was for me. And well, I mean, that's just part of my brand. It's not the only thing I do, but it's a big part, and it draws attention, part of the sparkle and all the colors. And, I color with sparkle, let's just say it. And it's not glitter. It's really quite, it's an elevated experience. And some people call it diamonds, some people call it rhinestones, or whatever you want to call it. But, Swarovski crystals, it's a quality element that I add to my artistic flair. But for this gentleman in particular, it wasn't over feminine. It was very bold, very appropriate for this individual. And his logo happens to be, or his, I guess his word, his business is Epic Services, and Be Epic, BEE, Epic. And then so when it was presented to him in front of a group of people, he went on this 10-minute discussion in front of all of us what it means to be epic. And that piece of artwork was such an amazing bow on the package, if you will, that whole experience, how the person that I created it for to give as a gift, that experience was overwhelming, because I got to help create that experience of this person giving a gift, which is in itself amazing. That me being the conduit of conveying the message that the giver intended was spot on. And then the revelation, just the discussion at the end, was very powerful for everybody. And, if art and creativity can have that impact on making somebody feel so amazing, so validated, so valued, then to me, that's There are no other words. I mean, I think you
You
could
didn't,
feel the
you didn't
emotion
get
from that
to,
experience.
you didn't get to know the person that it was being gifted to.
Oh,
You went
I
totally.
did.
Oh, you did.
I did know the person, not as well as the giver, but I
Oh,
did know him. He is also another adjunct mentor on this business team. And then when he went off and told us all about what it means to be epic in his words, in his values, and his ethic, his just business ethic, it's like, I mean, I was able to receive all of that, and everybody else in the room received that as well. So it was just a very magical experience
that would be.
that I helped create,
Wow.
you know.
Oh,
And
what a
if I could do that every day,
wonderful.
if I could do that every day,
Yeah.
right?
Wow. Wow. So Chris, what's your favorite part of the business? So you do so many things. Is this what you just explained? Is that your favorite part? Or is it all of it? What would you say?
Every 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 piece of it has a part, right? It's not ever just one thing. It's an
Yeah.
accumulation of all the things. And showing up and knowing that I can be of service, create an impact, uplift others. Um, I can do all that with my creativity in various different ways, and helping other people exercise their creativity by showing up and servicing and mentoring and training. There's so many facets, no pun intended.
Yeah. Yeah.
Truly, I mean, but here's the thing, and I came up with this analogy, I don't know, a year and a half ago. I mean, if you think about a diamond, what a diamond actually is, right? The more facets it has, the more brilliant it shines, the more radiant it is. But here's the table, the flat surface is where the light comes in,
Right.
right? So if you think about the light coming through here, this is the table, right? And so through life, we're always constantly polishing all these surfaces and the rough edges of who we are, what we've done, our lessons learned. And when we can polish that, utilize it, grow and learn from it, we become more radiant, more brilliant. I mean, we got to own it. I mean, that's who we are. So we're all a diamond. And that's the exact same thing when I received an award last year at Polka Dots. And the first word, the first sentence out of my mouth is like, I see a room full of diamonds, right? Because we all are. We're all polishing our imperfections or perceived imperfections. It's like, you know what? Our only imperfections that we're human. We're here having a human experience. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to learn. We're going to dust ourselves off, pull our bootstraps
Yeah.
up in our big girl pants, and
Yeah.
keep going, right? So we're all just diamonds, you know. Some shine a little brighter, some are still polishing the rough edges and
Yeah.
the inclusions, and some are carving more facets so
Yeah.
that we can shine brighter. So there are no accidents. And when I came up with embellished butterfly in the medium that I chose to use, and me connecting all that together is the direction I'm going.
And do you have a favorite type of client, or you just anyone reach out to you, get connected with you? How do you like people to reach out to you?
Well, we've already covered that you and I both have a soft spot for entrepreneurs because it is a very unique journey.
Yeah.
But I am a very inclusive person, so I would not turn someone away as long as psychographically they were a good fit, right?
Yeah.
Energetically, you know, we both felt like we could work together. I know, I mean, I can help everyone that's willing to do the work.
Right.
That's the thing. You have to be willing to do the work and show
Yeah.
up in a
Right.
bigger way. And I also have a soft spot for creatives because that's the space that I'm playing in, using my creativity to help others unlock their creativity.
Yeah.
And people, you know, again, people have, even people that are like blueprint, black and white, you know, maybe they work with numbers, maybe they, you know, have a very rigid impression of themselves. It's like, there's some creativity on there. We're gonna look into that. Let's develop it a little bit more. And it doesn't have to be their business. You know, if they can fulfill themselves through some creativity in different ways, and that it could be cooking, it could be writing, it could be snowboarding. I mean, it could be anything. There's so many ways to self-express and release some of that tension and energy. For me, I find creativity and being quiet and playing in my sparkles very meditative. And so I honor that space because it allows me to be very quiet, introspective, reflective. A lot of times I'm also at the same time listening to an impactful podcast, and I have, several go-tos because I'm constantly filling the table, the light through here
Yeah.
with positive, energetic, empowering messages.
Yeah.
It helps truly because I struggle. I'm human. There are days when I have to remind myself who I am.
Yeah. That roller coaster ride that as you get older, I think it's a little less rough.
Well,
You
and
know to expect it.
Well, and I have an analogy about that roller coaster ride. I feel my observation and opinion is the better that we manage our energy, emotions, and our ego, the less of this roller coaster ride. We actually vibrate at a higher frequency. So we're going to go through life like this, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're flatline, I'm sorry, you're dead. You're
Right,
6 feet
right.
under. So I mean, the human experience, and instead, the big sine wave, that's low energy. The high energy is up, down, right? I mean, we're going to go through life like that. If we can stay in this more, that's a high frequency, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So giving ourselves what we need, giving our body absolutely what it needs, our brain, our spirit, our soul, feed the soul, we're going to be okay. We're going to figure it out.
Yeah. Now, how did you come up with all of that together? Because I'm sorry, but I think I've seen some people just take a few of those pieces, but not everybody takes all of those together. Mind, body, spirit, soul, all that.
It's all very necessary. If you desire to live a whole, complete life for yourself, be connected to yourself, live within your values, that you must take all of those into account.
And was it always that way
To
for
have
you?
peace.
You realized it?
I've connected the dots. I've connected to myself and my inner wisdom, my intuition, my introspection, my lessons, my education, my experiences, occupational, even skills that I learned that I never got paid for, right? Those are
Yeah.
all part of my assets. I own all of those. I mean, anything you've ever invested in, you own it.
Yeah.
You put time into it, you crafted it, you honed it, you own it. And I think a lot of people put things on a shelf they don't think they need anymore, or life has compressed some skills and assets. Life, they think they have to keep adding. It's like, no, let's dig up some of that stuff you've already invested in. Wait, you're sitting on a gold mine. You're sitting on all these amazing things. It's kind of like excavation. You're digging up fossils, and sometimes you need a soul guide or a mentor to hold a shovel with you and help you to start digging and start uncovering. There's a lot of magic right here that we hold on to.
A lot of times it's hard to find a good mentor. And so that could shut people down. So any advice on how people find that mentor? I mean, it's not always the first person you run into that is the perfect setup, sort of same with business.
Right.
You get along with certain customers better than other ones. And so you just say, okay, well, you to the other person who's working with you, you handle that person and I'll handle this next person.
Right.
So I'm sure the same thing happens with mentors.
I think people need to have a certain amount of unlocking of the awareness that there's something inside that they feel a little trapped in different pockets of their heart, if they will. And for me, someone like myself, I would say that I'm doing a better job of opening up myself, turning on that dial on the radio, that frequency, right? And me showing up and me sharing all the things that I can share. And people are going to be listening to that radio station, and they're either going to like my station or they're going to like somebody else's station. I'm just going to show up, be who I am, do what I do. And when people are aware and their interest is piqued, it's like, oh, I want to know more, and start asking questions. And, it could take weeks, months, years for people to come around to really be interested in wanting to do that work. Or maybe I'm not the right fit today. Maybe people need something else. They're looking for something else. Then they go on, and then, you know, I'm still showing up because I'm consistent.
Right.
And then people might decide one day, it's like, oh, I'm ready for what she has. I'm ready to learn what I can from Chris. How can I work with Chris? And then they'll approach me. I don't feel a need to, I'm not going to chase people. You know, I am who I am, like me or not. I'm here to serve. I'm here to show up and help you hold that higher image of yourself, and quit doing the roller coaster. Let's get it more a high vibration, high frequency. And so there's a lot of science, there's some philosophy, there's practicing techniques and strategies that I implement with how I coach and mentor.
I love it. Well,
Science-based, yeah.
I'll have your phone number on here, email, how people can get in touch with you. Are there any last words of wisdom that you would like to share with entrepreneurs and our viewers that could wrap this all up?
Well, I am working on my next book. It's 7 Secrets Every Successful Entrepreneur Needs to Know. It is a lead magnet into how people can stay connected with me through my email sequence. And it is 7 secrets. I'll have to follow up that. If you're going to put it in writing, it's, yeah. Hold please. My brain just went like, nah, disconnects. Like, no, I just created another web domain for the 7 secrets.
Oh, okay.
I will provide that for you just as soon as we hang up here.
Okay.
But I have my website, chrisdyerconsulting.com. And you have my contact information, my email. I am available on Facebook, on Instagram, LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn, just Chris Dyer Creates. I love having fun. I'm having a lot of fun being creative, meeting amazing people, being connected, and just trusting the journey and just following up and showing up. Yeah. I mean, follow up, yes, but showing up in all different ways in service. And service is one of the 7. And actually, there's a bonus because I'm just extra like that. Because 7 secrets alliteratively sounds better than 8, right? I mean, because I'm very intentional with my language, but then there's a bonus because that's who I am. I'm gonna always leave something extra. So that's my word of wisdom. Always leave, over deliver, show up and over deliver. That's my wisdom.
Excellent information, Chris. I thank you. And I'm sure entrepreneurs, potential entrepreneurs who are already in business can get value from this interview. Super job. Thank you for coming on today, taking time with us. Really.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.